Hello and welcome to the House of Wellness. I'm Luke Darcy.
And I'm Jo Stanley, and I'm very happy to be here with you again, Darcy. And you know, this show works as my weekly reminder to live in the moment, pay attention more closely, and think about my health instead of just, blindly going through the motions. It's a weekly health alarm clock.
Well, I like that, Jo. And one of the things I value most about what we do here is that we're part of the growing conversation, not just about physical health, but mental health and well-being as well.
Yeah, and the fact that we are all different with different quirks and abilities, what makes us goes way beyond genes and DNA, although we do have all of that, of course. But, OK, here we go. I'm going on the gut rant again. But inside each human gut is an individual ecosystem of different bacteria that doesn't just influence our digestion, but affects our whole body health. And each person really is totally unique. I just love that.
Yeah, brilliant, Jo. Diversity is everywhere you look, including in the area of mental health, which is one of my passions, and one disorder that doesn't get a lot of attention, Jo, is schizophrenia.
Schizophrenia Awareness Week kicks off this Sunday. It aims to cast new light on the complex disorder that affects up to 200,000 Australians and remains pretty misunderstood. And you've got to say a lot of films and TV shows don't help in that area because it's often portrayed so negatively and usually inaccurately.
Yeah, it's still widely stigmatised, which no doubt has an incredibly negative effect on the well-being of people who suffer from it too.
Which is why Heidi Everett, who's had schizophrenia for 25 years, created the Mojo Short Film Festival. It's advertised as the only public event for schizophrenia pride in Australia, and it allows people with diverse mental health to tell their own real stories.
After surviving complex trauma at a young age, Melbourne's Heidi Everett was diagnosed with schizophrenia at 24 years old.
If you have been through lots of difficult stuff, your brain doesn't actually develop peacefully. You get to a point where your brain just can't function straight anymore and it starts to do some odd things, and it might be having some really strong beliefs about things, might be having some auditory hallucinations. Some people hear voices, other people hear music. And yeah, it's more of a stress reaction, it just gets out of control. But then there's also the disabling aspect which the society puts on me. So if you say the word schizophrenia to someone, they often take 2 steps back away from you because they're not seeing you, the person, they're seeing the word schizophrenia. And that includes a lot of imagery and a lot of messages that just aren't true.
After years of seeing the harmful stereotypes of schizophrenia reinforced through films and TV, in 2017, Heidi decided to take back the narrative. Through her volunteer events organisation, Schizzy Inc., she launched the Mojo Film Festival, an annual event where anyone with schizophrenia in Australia and around the world is encouraged to create a short film based on their own life experiences, with the top entries screened publicly in Melbourne.
We do filmmaking workshops for beginners, and that's using smartphones, completely accessible to everybody, and say, show us what life is like through your camera, through your eyes, through your ears. And so we have documentary, we have animations, we have music videos, we have some, kind of creative non-fiction, strange kind of, I don't know what you might call them, there's not even a genre for it.
Get my feelings, my emotions, my flashbacks.
The enormous diversity of films submitted to Mojo helps to shine a spotlight on the wide variety of ways people experience schizophrenia and how their lives are affected by the social stigma that comes with it.
How does it feel being my last resort and you didn't pick up the phone?
Over the past few years, regular entrant Mitchell Fairbank has developed a raw talent for expressing his own mental health struggles through quirky hand-drawn animations.
With any people that are marginalised, having somewhere to express your voice, to have a voice and say what you want to say, can be very powerful and very cathartic. I can get locked down in my work Everything else just sort of seems to go away for a while. And after, you smash out a whole heap of drawings and, you look at it and you think, wow, okay, this is actually coming together really well. And then at the end, when it does come together and people appreciate what you've done, it's like a big payoff. It's like, oh, wow, these people enjoy my work.
Another budding filmmaker getting involved this year is Sandy Jeffs, who knows better than anyone how creative expression can transform a person's life.
So I reckon I'm going to use that stuff that we did the other day with...
I was diagnosed with schizophrenia in 1976, so this is a time when schizophrenia was seen as an absolute death sentence. And I remember even being told by clinicians at the time that with each episode of psychosis I had, I would go deeper into madness from which I'd never recover. So, in a way, I bought into the pessimism of my diagnosis at that time too, because all the messaging was pessimistic.
Sandy spent the 70s and 80s moving in and out of psych wards, where she lost all sense of personal identity, until she began documenting her experience through poetry.
It's really interesting. When I wrote those poems, when I held that poem in my hand on a bit of paper that I had written with a pen, that poem at that time was evidence that I was still alive. It was testimony to my existence, that nothing else gave me that sort of testimony. Nothing told me I was alive at the time other than these little poems that I was writing. It's been great to be involved with Schizy Inc. and Mojo because it's really a space where we can encourage other people to tap into their creativity and use it as a formative healing experience. So for them to make films, to create art, to really get in touch with their creative souls, that is, I think, transformative for people, and it's about giving them hope, purpose and meaning in their life.
My days were coming to an end.
A lot of people with schizophrenia have survived 20 years of a really difficult life. And it's not just one scenario that they've survived, it's over and over again in different situations. So that has to be a feeling of pride. It can't be anything else. It has to be, you've lived through stuff, you've got through it. And your brain's doing some wonderfully creative things to filter those things and file those things.
I used to like playing word games.
We need to be able to give people who have survived a difficult life tools and resources and spaces and time to be able to feel that, not celebration, but to feel that strength.
Shut everyone out.
It's, I hope, a way of educating the broader public about people with lived experience. Instead of ostracising people or marginalising people, pigeonholing people, we all have value, and it's about other people recognising, yes, we do have value.
As we said, Schizophrenia Awareness Week begins on Sunday, May 23rd, which is also World Schizophrenia Day. It's so important these stories are made and shared, don't you think, Darth?
I agree, Jo, and the fact that these films are made by people who suffer from schizophrenia will surely help in busting some of the myths surrounding it.
Exactly. This year's theme is A Day in My Life, and the films will be screened at Melbourne's Acme on May 23. So get along if you can, or head online to watch the entries. You'll find the details on our website. Welcome back. Society has come a long way in its approach to mental health, but some conditions, like schizophrenia, are still widely misrepresented and misunderstood. Here to help break the stigma and give us the facts, please welcome schizophrenia support leader Carmel Pardee. Hi, Carmel.
Hi, Jo.
And a mental health ambassador who's lived with schizophrenia, Cameron Sol-Nordal. Cameron, hello.
Hello, Jo.
So, Carmel, before the break, we touched on the mystery and the myths that still surround schizophrenia. Can you tell us exactly what schizophrenia is?
Schizophrenia is a complex mental health issue that really disrupts a person's mind. It may affect their thoughts, their perceptions, their emotions. Typically, they will experience, intense episodes of perhaps psychosis, and then longer-term sort of non-psychotic sort of symptoms which may result in an impact to their mood, the way they function, their emotions. But typically, no one person with schizophrenia will present in the same way that another person does. Their symptoms vary, so their experience is different.
And Cameron, you've lived with the disorder. What effect has it had on your life?
Figuratively speaking, the weight that it has is that it slows down my functions, mentally, physically, emotionally. It slows down and sometimes distorts the functions that you would have on any given day, any given daily process, going down the street, going to work, looking after your family. It is like a weight, but after 20 years, it's something I can carry.
And what kind of symptoms do you have?
Initially, it was a very, very complex state of paranoia, and the paranoia itself was very associated with a hypersensitivity to my environment. And after a very, very long time of a lot of trauma and bullying over the years, the paranoia became more prevalent because I started looking for the bullying and the trauma everywhere. And then when it moved into psychosis, I started seeing it everywhere, even though it wasn't necessarily there. And the psychosis was me building a narrative around that and trying to explain it and trying to tell a story as to how it could make sense in the real world. And that's when my psychosis started to disconnect me from reality.
Did it take a long time for all of those experiences to be described to you as schizophrenia?
For me to actually get help, it didn't really present as something that stopped my daily function until my early to mid-20s, which is quite stereotypically when that occurs. And when I was actually having trouble trying to talk to people about what I was going through and knowing that it wasn't making sense, but it made sense to me, and the look on people's faces and the look of misunderstanding on their faces, even though to me it made total sense at the time, that was when it all culminated in what was a mental breakdown. It was a nervous breakdown. It was a physical breakdown as well. And it was at that point that I knew that there was something wrong.
And was there some relief that came with diagnosis for you then?
The most terrifying part as a new patient is the psychosis, or the first stage psychosis. And this is when every stereotype of your own reality breaks down, where you cannot tell what is real and what is not, where you cannot tell if something is in front of you or if it isn't. When a diagnosis of schizophrenia is given, that is when it can be managed, and that's when things can start being put back together.
Carmel, are these sorts of symptoms and these experiences common?
Yes, they are for schizophrenia, and I think, what Cam said about the psychosis, it can be really, really frightening, and that's sometimes where the misconceptions come into play about schizophrenia, the stigma that people internalise about, people with schizophrenia being dangerous. They're actually really frightened, they're not safe, but as Cam said also, with the right support, early intervention, people can get the right support and live a life, a fulfilled life.
The piece of advice that really changed me was a very old friend of mine said, you say that you can fix it yourself, but the flaw in that is you're trying to fix yourself with the very tool that is broken. And that changed everything for me. So that was when I really trusted the medication, trusted the advice of doctors. And, it's a long-term process. We've only had 50 or 60 years of research from doctors themselves really starting to understand the diagnosis of schizophrenia.
When I hear you speak, I feel like the first challenge to all of us in the community is to have absolute compassion for those who are living with schizophrenia. What else do you think the broader community needs to do to respond?
Yeah, I think you're right, Joe, to have compassion, to have compassion for people's different experiences. We don't want to come from just a deficit sort of model with people with schizophrenia. People with schizophrenia have got a lot to offer to the world and a lot to contribute to the world, and they do. So, you know, I think we just need to, educate people, educate the community, starting from a really young age.
Once you have a diagnosis of schizophrenia, that's when the management can begin. Now, there could be one of 10 or 12 different types. It could be easily recoverable, but you need to trust your GP. You need to trust the idea that a medication will help balance your symptoms. And speaking from very personal experience, after 20 years, you can live a very, very fulfilling life. You can have a career and you can look at yourself in the mirror and know that you're functional.
Carmel and Cameron, thanks so much for coming in to enlighten us.
Thanks, Jo.
Thanks, Joe.
Schizophrenia Awareness Week begins on May 23rd, when everyone's encouraged to learn more about these sorts of disorders and other mental health conditions too. And, you know, very few of us escape some kind of mental anguish in our lives, so we all believe knowledge is power. And if you'd like more information, there's great online support available at sane.org.
Welcome back to the House of Wellness Kitchen, where, look, we're not vain. I mean, maybe a little bit. As much as we love foods that make us feel good, we love the ones that help us look good too. And to tell us more, I've got the founder of Kynd Vitamins, Matt Stenmark.
Luke, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be cooking with you today.
My absolute pleasure. You can be my sous chef. Now, Kynd is all about providing health and beauty products with ingredients based on scientific evidence. Why is this important to you?
For us, we wanted to create great products, and that means starting with ingredients that are based on scientific evidence. After all, that's why we called it Kynd, because I think we've sort of lost the art of showing ourselves some kindness sometimes, and so it's about investing in your health, giving yourself something back.
And when we're talking about investing in our health, from a nutritional perspective, it doesn't get better than salmon, which is why today I'm making a crispy skinned salmon with a Mexican guacamole. And salmon is also packed with a very much a beautifying ingredient that's good for your skin.
Yeah, Hinesy, you're thinking of collagen. Australia has gone mad for collagen. What people don't realise, though, it's actually a protein, and it's right throughout our body. And that's the reason we've created our Collagen Plus. I think for me, I don't always have time to do the amazing cooking, crispy skinned salmon.
Oh, mate.
And that's why we created the product, because, I mean, I work too much, I've got a little daughter, and so I wanted to find ways to incorporate collagen in my everyday. And we created this product. It's actually got bovine and marine collagen in every tablet to make it super easy to get it into our diets.
What I love, Matt, is that not only do you help support people to look after themselves and their health, but you also look after others and the planet.
Yeah, that's right, Luke. We're trying to give back. We help consumers look after themselves, but we also make it easy to look after somebody else. Every Kynd product sold, we donate an immunity product to an Australian in need, 1 for 1. And we've also tried to look after the planet by replacing the traditional plastic cap with our bamboo cap to give back to the planet in that way too.
And, mate, while you're looking after the health of others and the planet, I want to look after your taste buds. Here you go.
Oh, mate, that looks fantastic. You're way too kind.
Oh, mate, I see what you've done there and I'm not too sure how I feel about it. The A to Z of Vitamins is brought to you by Kynd Collagen Plus, dual-source collagen peptides, where every purchase spreads kindness.
Hinesy there, squeezing every bit of goodness he can from the food that he cooks with. And look who it is. It's Hinesy. How you going, darling?
So good.
It's great to see you. Now, one of the things I like about your style of cooking is that you never appear to overuse your ingredients. And by that I mean you're careful about how much you buy. So what is your approach to buying the right amount of food? Because I feel like I get that wrong a lot.
So there's two things you need to do. The first thing, before you go to the shops, check what you've got before you buy double. And second, plan your week's recipes around one hero ingredient so that when you buy it in bulk, you can use it all.
These are such good tips, and I'm going to hand them over to my husband because he is terrible at these things. So food waste is a massive problem right now all around the world, right?
It is absolutely huge. We throw out about 300 kilos of food each every year. That's about 1 in 5 grocery bags, Joe. But on a global scale, it is even scarier. 1/3 of the world's food is wasted.
It also impacts water usage. 25% of water used by agriculture to grow thrown-out food is also wasted. So to put that into context, throwing away one burger wastes the same amount of water as having a 90-minute shower.
It is absolutely crazy, Joe. The good news is the Australian government has pledged to halve food wastage by the year 2030, and local companies are doing their bit to help hit that target. And leading the charge is a Sydney cafe that makes the most out of every scrap of food it can. When Alex Elliott Howery was at home raising 2 young kids, she began to take notice of all the groceries she was throwing away.
I was just starting to think about, oh, like I'm going to the shops and I'm buying all this stuff and then they eat some of it and then, oh my God, so much goes into the bin. And then because I'm a bit obsessive and liked research, I would lie in bed at night just being like, oh my God, I threw away a lettuce. What did the neighbours throw away? What did people 4 doors down throw away? And then I was like on top of the world just watching everyone's rubbish.
Within a few years, Alex went from pickling and preserving the fruit from her neighbours' trees to starting up a sustainable cafe with her husband James in Sydney's inner west.
There's really hardly any food waste at Cornersmith. We're really quite strict, I guess, about portion sizes, making sure there's not too much food. And then we make sure that all the excess bits are being used. So our rule in the kitchen is that you've got to extract as much flavour out of something before it goes into the bin or the compost. I feel like people don't realise that you can use all parts of vegetables.
Yep.
So did you know you can eat cauliflower leaves?
I feel like it's a bit of a trick question to me because
'Cause you
I'm
know
also
stuff.
a foodie, but I would say the majority of my friends and family would rip this off and throw it
They
out.
go like this and they chuck it in the bin.
Yep.
Same with leek tops, same with celery tops, same with fennel tops, beetroot leaves. The only thing you're not allowed to eat is rhubarb leaves.
Yeah, they're poisonous.
Yeah, so don't do that. But everything else is up for grabs.
And this discolouring doesn't matter, does it?
Well-
so if it's brown and frizzled and all that, you still go for
is
it?
that brown and frizzled? I mean, I know it's not a beauty. Like, I'd probably take off anything that was slimy.
Yep.
Mould, obviously, get rid of. Give everything a really good wash, obviously, as well. But you just have to inspect. And, like, without being too hippie, you kind of need to connect with your produce and get to know it and know which parts are good and which parts aren't.
Why do you think we've been conditioned to throw so much away?
I think it's habit, and I think we need to break habits and not just going, oh, it got a bit tired, it got a bit wrinkly, I'm just going to chuck it out. But also we need to go, you know what, this cauliflower that I bought, it cost X amount of money, but also there's all the hidden environmental costs that are behind all of that. So just chucking that in the bin is throwing away water and is throwing away so many other things as well. So yeah, I think it's maybe that we've devalued food. So this is my favourite part. It's really delicious. It's the centre. It's the thing that most people chuck into the bin, but it's full of flavour. And you can put it through a stir fry. You could like chop it up like you would a carrot. Yep. But it's also one of the best things to do with it is to make pickles, and quick pickles, not like, you know, have to sterilise jars. And this is your 20 minutes. I've got people coming over. I want to be super impressive kind of pickling. So what we're going to do is thinly slice it.
Okay.
The thinner, the better.
So the thinner you go, the quicker it pickles.
Yeah, because the vinegar will absorb inside it. So the pickling brine is 1 cup of really hot water, half a cup of vinegar, some sugar and some salt.
Okay, easy.
And easy. Like
Everyone's got that.
Everyone's got those things. And they're all preserving ingredients, so they're going to make it last longer as well.
Pickling and preserving are 2 of Cornersmith's specialties, with many locals dropping off their homegrown produce to be bottled and sold at the counter, or even added to the seasonal menu.
I guess I kind of have become like this pickling queen of Australia, which is, you know, strange and cool. But I feel like it's a really important skill, and we need to take the nostalgia out of it and stop it being this kind of cutesy craft and make it a really practical skill in our contemporary kitchens that's going to stop food waste.
So talk to me about the tops of veg. I usually cut them away.
And chuck them in the bin or the
Yeah.
compost.
I know, I'm guilty.
No, it's okay.
Okay.
We're just changing habits here.
Yeah.
Yeah, no shame, no guilt. So carrot tops have heaps of flavour, earthy, peppery, perfect for pesto making. I mean, pesto's a loose term, but we're going to blitz it up with some garlic, with some nuts, and make a really nice earthy green sauce with it. Give them a rough chop. A lot of people are afraid of the kitchen. They're a bit afraid of cooking, like it's all too hard. So sometimes I think we need to really simplify down those things to make people feel more confident and more empowered and like they can make better choices. Like if you just make carrot top pesto and that's your trick for a while, that's awesome. And then once you've got that down, then you might move on to the next thing and think, oh, I might do a little bit of pickling.
There are some staggering stats out there. On average, Aussies throw out 1 in 5 shopping bags worth of food.
Yes.
That is a
heartbreaking.
massive amount of food. How do we not overshop, and then what do we do with ingredients so they don't go to waste?
So I think people have got to shop smart, and I think you've got to buy is what I try to tell people all the time, is to buy less food. Because you go there and even at the farmers markets, you fall in love with like a big bunch of something, but are you actually going to use it? Probably not. So I think you've got to know like a little bit of meal planning without being completely rigid about it. I think our grandmothers and great-grandmothers, like you had heaps of silver beets. So that's what you're eating. It's not like, oh, I feel like Thai tonight, and then tomorrow I'm cooking Moroccan. It's sort of like silver beets on the menu. And then you figure out a million different things to do with that. So I think buy less, cook more, but not complex, and use it all, use everything.
Joe, what is your best upcycled or recycled meal that you make using leftovers or those dodgy things that you can find at the back of your fridge?
Yeah, all right. Fried rice.
Huh?
Absolutely love it. You can stick any vegetable in it, lots of beautiful brown rice, and we may every now and then chuck some bacon or a little bit of chicken in there, lots of soy sauce.
Yes.
It's delicious.
Oh, so good.
You have never seen anything more entertaining than my daughter picking through it going, what's that? And what's that? And what's that? Like, it's vegetables, eat it, it's fine.
Don't ask how old it is either. No, definitely off the cards.
Welcome back. Australia has a proud history of helping bring sight and support to vision-impaired people in developing countries. And Fred Hollows, who actually is a Kiwi, but we've claimed as our own. We like to do that,
Yes.
Joe. Restored sight to Indigenous Australians and many people around the world. What a legend.
Absolutely. And Aussie innovators are also right now working on developing a bionic eye, which is amazing. And 2 young Aussie opticians are working in Kenya making life-changing prosthetic eyes for people who've lost theirs through disease or trauma.
Remarkable story, this one, Joe. Friends Francesca and Nellie left their jobs in Melbourne to start a charity called Eyes for All. They paid for their own training in what is such a specialised field, making prosthetic eyes.
Only a handful of people around the world are trained to do it. And I caught up with these Aussie eye pioneers to see how their unique work is changing the lives of so many. Tell us, how did you girls meet and what were you doing at the time?
We met in about, I think it was 2012, and we were both working at an optometry practice in Melbourne. And we were both working as optical dispensers. So at the time we would be fitting lenses and choosing frames and, working on that side of optometry.
So how did you find yourself in the world of prosthetic ocularists, and what is that?
So an ocular prosthetist or ocularist, it's quite a niche job. It's a hybrid between science, art, a bit of psychology, but it's mostly rehabilitation. So it describes a person who custom makes and fits an artificial eye. And we do this for people who have lost theirs due to disease or trauma.
And what led you to follow this path?
I guess ocular prosthetics, it's a hybrid of everything that we love. So we met in an optometry practice and we bonded over a love for eyes and eyewear and things like that. And this is just something that we can put our knowledge and skills of eyes towards, but we can also help people at the same time.
So how did you train as prosthetic ocularists?
So most places in the world, ocular prosthetics, it's kind of a family-run generational business. So you'll be taught by your father, who'll be taught by their father, and it runs in the family. For us, who weren't born into an ocularist family, we went to the UK and trained with one of the world's best ocularists.
We had to send a lot of emails reaching out to people all around the world.
Yeah.
I don't know how many emails we sent. We finally got an offer to come over to the UK to train, which we just packed up our bags instantly and found ourselves over in Nottingham.
Yeah. And then after that, we traveled around to different places around the world to learn different techniques. So we've worked in Athens, we've worked in New Zealand, Ghana, Nigeria, and now Kenya.
So what is the process? How do you make a prosthetic eye?
So it is quite a lengthy process. There's about 40 steps that are involved in making a prosthetic eye. I think the best way to describe it is it's the same material as you make false teeth out of. We apply the little veins to the whites of the eye using silk threads, completely custom fit to a patient's socket and completely hand painted and polished, buffed, and it.
And now you're working and living in Kenya. Why there?
So we initially came here just to work with hospitals, and we observed that artificial eyes and custom-made artificial eyes were not readily available here and extending into, the rest of East Africa. We just realized that it was, very hard for people to get the rehabilitation that they needed after surgery of having the eye removed. So at that point, we decided that we wanted to try and establish a field here. Another reason was also that Kenya has one of the highest rates of retinoblastoma, which is a very aggressive form of eye cancer. And it often goes undetected or undiagnosed. And at that point, the only option is to have the eye removed. So, to be able to offer rehabilitations for patients that have gone, through something that's quite traumatic, that was, one of the big reasons.
And I imagine that what you're giving these people is a completely different sense of self. That must be incredibly rewarding.
It really is. It's quite a beautiful, emotionally involved job. We're very lucky to be involved in our patients' journey to rehabilitation. We've heard it described often by our patients as feeling whole again.
So tell us about Eyes for All.
We make prosthetic eyes, but our long-term goal is to be an educational hub for anyone else who wants to learn how to make prosthetic eyes. It was very tricky for us to get this study and this education, so we want to be able to provide it in an area where it's not easily accessible or available.
I think also to help create, more of a community of sharing knowledge, because it is such a tight-knit industry and it's very hard to get into. We want to be able to help other people either get into the industry or support other ocularists.
Das, I was so unbelievably impressed with those young women who gave up what would have been a fun, comfy life in Melbourne to go over to Kenya and change people's lives like that.
Just got to respect for young females who are doing things that are changing lives in that part of the world. They are some serious achievers, Francesca and Nellie. Well done.
And what an incredible skill as well, Das, to have that artistic side and the science. And I was just in awe of those girls.
Amazing.
Yeah. Up next, we're into boosting immunity, how to help keep the kids cold-free this winter. That's coming up on the House of Wellness.
Hi, I'm Jade and I'm all about the latest beauty, hair and makeup trends.
And I'm Polly Harding, and working in radio, I've still got a lot to learn about the beauty biz.
Together, we're going to bust those beauty myths,
strip things back to basics, and learn a few new tricks in the process.
PJ, when we fall asleep at night after a long, hard day, it's not just physically our body that's resting and repairing, it's actually our skin also. So this is such an important time at night. Any concerns that we have, like premature aging, anything like that, this is when our skin is working extra hard.
But not only do you feel better after a good night's sleep, your skin always looks so much better. If you get those 8 hours and then pair that with, you know, a good nighttime skin routine, you're good to go.
It's funny you say that because it's quite important what night cream you go with. And that's what I love about the Swisse Beauty Renew range is they've added 2 new products, one being a night cream, which is the Bioretinol Renewing Night Cream, and it complements perfectly the day cream, which is the Bioceramides Renewing Defense Cream.
Oh, cute. They're like 2 best friends. You can't have one without the other.
Yes. What I love about Swisse Beauty's Renew range and the 2 new products that they've added to the range is they've really thought about the person at home. They've simplified this and you can't get much simpler than a day cream and a night cream, and you're combating premature aging in a natural way.
This Swisse range is really beautiful. I have used the day cream before and I loved how hydrating and protecting it was.
So the night cream, similarly to the day cream, has beautiful natural ingredients in it, and the Bacchus oil is really nature's saving grace. The Swisse Bioretinol Renewing Night Cream has botanical actives, which helps with your skin hydration and skin texture. And when you wake up in the morning, your skin overall has been renewed and looks plump and overall smoother.
Well, it feels, first of all, thicker than the day cream.
Yes.
But it's also like a little whipped cream feeling. It's kind of a weird description.
It sounds so good, I just want to apply it now.
No, it feels amazing.
Let me try this.
Well, Jade, anything that's hydrating and helps combat premature aging, I am sold.
Okay, but I'm older than you, so I need those ingredients even more.
You've already used it, so I can have it back. Thank you.
Well, let me at least help you rub it in.
I love this time of year, Joe. Crisp, clean blue skies, but that colder air always gives me a sniffles, bit of a runny nose. I can't stand it. And look, I'm a bad sick person. I love the attention, so if I'm ever unwell, please dote on me.
What's really unfortunate is I'm a terrible nurse with very little compassion.
Oh, OK, great.
You don't want to be sick with me.
I'm out of here.
OK. But seriously, our kids can get as many as 5 to 10 colds per year, which is a lot of chicken soup. And yes, from the little ones, a bit of whining as well. And of course, nowadays we have to factor in COVID tests and having to self-quarantine for every tiny symptom too, which is really tough.
So going on the attack to keep the kids' immune systems fighting fit is the best defence. Here's some expert tips on how to do it and, more importantly, what the kids think about it too.
I don't like I hate Brussels sprouts and zucchini and capsicum. I hate every vegetable. I don't like mash. Content broccoli.
And what did you say?
I like broccoli. Or even dumplings and sushi. Oh, I love dumplings.
Every parent knows the battle of trying to get their kids to eat all the good foods, especially the ones that assist their immune health.
I've analysed thousands of children's diets and very comfortable to say that children's eating behaviour varies dramatically. I find myself rolling my sleeves up every day to have that battle with my 2 little ones. It's a fun battle, but it can be a very frustrating battle. So the National Health and Medical Research Council, they state that only 1 in 25 children actually meet their daily consumption need for vegetables. Now, that can easily create what we call a nutritional gap. We typically get to winter and it's our cold and flu season, but the reality is that viruses and bacteria don't take the other seasons off. So, you know, there's an all year round job, and evidence says that children experience about 5 to 10 flus and colds per year, and then each of them lasts around that 1 week, a bit more, and you know that can collectively add up to quite a long period of time where your little one is just ill or not feeling the best. And when they're going through such a period of growth and development, you want them to constantly be at their best.
I never got sick. Today I'm even a tiny bit sick. Bad, really bad. I hated it. And we need to wash our hands every day.
Probably the important thing to remember is it's still good to have some cold and flus throughout the year, because our acquired immune system develops off the back of having these cold and flus. So our goal is to reduce the amount and also just reduce the severity. So there's a couple of standout nutrients for immunity for children, and that is zinc and vitamin C. If fussy eating is really leading to those stressful meal times, supplementation can be that insurance policy across the broad aspect of health. So that's whether it be bone development, whether it be just general meeting nutritional needs, whether it be, as we talked about, immunity. You've just got this whole range of health benefits that supplementation can assist with, but the word supplementation is what it is. It's there to supplement a healthy diet. So at Swisse, we've developed our kids' gummies range off the back of these guiding principles to really help parents with their little fussy eaters. So they're 99% sugar-free, they have no artificial sweeteners, colours or flavours, and most of all, they taste great. So the immune gummies contain over 50% of the recommended daily intake for both zinc and vitamin C.
I only eat the healthy things like fish, capsicum, lettuce, and all the things that are healthy. Don't eat sweets so much. My sister eats sweets so much. So you could grow up big and strong. That's all. I'm finished.
Well, the pandemic certainly highlighted the important role that nurses play in keeping people healthy across their entire lifespan, Jo.
Absolutely. Not only did it expose the weaknesses in our health systems, but the enormous pressures our nurses around the world are working under. So the good news is that the International Council of Nurses has called for a reset to explore new models of care that will form future healthcare.
Given they make up the largest sector of the healthcare profession, they must play a part in the planning process. So they're calling on nurses to take part by telling their story, which is a great way to do it, hearing case studies from those on the front line, Jo.
They really are such special people, and if you're interested, you'll find details of how to submit on our website.
Well, that's it for today, Jo. For more information about anything you've seen on the show, go to our website, houseofwellness.com.au.
Join me and Gerald Quigley every Sunday for the House of Wellness radio show.
And as always, thanks to our great friends at Chemist Warehouse. We'll see you soon. Take care.